Welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And this one is pretty fascinating. We're going to be looking at a transcript.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's radio program.
Oh, wow.
It's called Mann Ki Baat,
Okay.
which translates to words from the heart.
Okay, cool.
So this is a monthly address that he gives to the nation.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the 116th episode, which just aired a few days ago on November 24th, 2024.
Okay.
Now, this isn't like a typical policy speech, you
Yeah.
know, like a State of the Union or something like that.
Right.
This is more of a reflection, I think, on India's kind of collective spirit, its efforts, its achievements, dreams, aspirations.
It's interesting. I mean, just to have this direct line of communication, from a leader to the citizens.
Yeah.
I mean, words from the heart. I mean, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty impactful.
And the range of topics that he covers in this is, well, it's pretty vast.
What was it?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about everything from the National Cadet Corps to libraries to even efforts to bring back sparrows to urban areas. So it's quite a grab bag of topics. And that's what makes this so intriguing, I think, to me. Because what's the through line here? Like, what's the message that he's trying to get across with all this?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it all ties together.
Yeah.
Especially with that title, words from the heart. So, I mean, it sounds very personal. It sounds very, very much about connection.
Right, yeah.
And making that across, a huge nation.
Yeah. Well, right off the bat, he starts with something very personal. He talks about his own experience in the NCC, which is the National Cadet Corps.
Okay.
And he says that he credits it with instilling in him discipline, leadership, and a sense of service values that clearly still resonate with him today.
That's great. And that's a good way to start too, right? By sharing a little bit about yourself, it makes you more relatable.
Well, and he doesn't just leave it at the anecdote. He goes on to highlight the growth of the NCC and specifically talks about how participation among young women has jumped to almost 40%, up from 25%. So it feels like he's maybe laying the groundwork here for a bigger message about the role of youth
Yes.
in India's future.
It seems like I mean, that's pretty substantial, that jump.
Yeah.
And definitely points to, a focus there.
Then he even goes on to issue a direct call. He says that more young people, particularly those who don't come from political families, should get involved in politics.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he even mentions a Vikasit Pharat Young Leaders Dialogue that's planned for January of 2025,
Okay.
which aims to bring together young minds with national and international leaders.
So really tapping into that next generation.
Yeah, and kind of saying, not only do you need to get involved, but you need to bring fresh perspectives to the table.
Right.
Be the change you want to see.
Be the change, yeah, and have influence and be part of the decision-making process.
Yeah. Do you think, I'm just curious, do you think that this type of dialogue can actually have an impact on policy in the direction of India's development?
I mean, it's certainly possible, right? If you're getting all of these great minds together
Yeah.
and having them interface with, the decision makers, the policymaker. I mean, I think there's definitely potential there.
Yeah.
Whether that translates into real change, that remains to be seen. But I think, as a gesture, as a step towards engaging the next generation,
Right.
it's significant.
So we go from these kind of big national goals, right, and something very, very personal.
Yeah.
And he shares the story of this guy, Virendra, from Lucknow, who is helping senior citizens navigate the digital life certificate process.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone's familiar with that, so maybe you can give us a quick explanation.
Sure. Yeah, so essentially it's like proof of life for a pensioner. So they have to submit this regularly to continue receiving their pension payments. And it's all gone digital in recent years, which, in theory is great, more efficient,
Sure.
but it can be a real hurdle for seniors who aren't, tech savvy.
So he's basically stepping in to bridge that gap
Right, yeah.
and help these people get what they need.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and this isn't an isolated example. He also mentions Mahesh from Bhokal, who is teaching senior citizens how to make payments on their mobile phones.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So it's really highlighting, I think, the importance of digital inclusion,
Yes.
especially as India continues to rapidly digitize.
Absolutely.
But also this role of young people stepping in to help older generations adapt.
Yes.
It's almost like a modern day take, on this traditional value of respect for elders
I love that.
and community support,
Yeah.
but through this technological lens.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
No, it's not all sunshine and roses when it comes comes to technology.
He brings up these digital arrest scams
Oh, yeah.
that are targeting seniors who may not be familiar with online security.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about those.
So these are scary because they prey on fear and misinformation. So they often involve like fake calls from claiming to be, from the bank or some authority saying, "Oh, your bank account or your Aadhaar card has been compromised." And then they pressure the victim into revealing sensitive information.
Wow.
And then that leads to, financial losses.
It sounds like it's becoming more and more common, too.
Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah. He mentions this guy, Rajiv, from Ahmedabad, who's working to raise awareness about these scams and to help seniors protect themselves.
That's great.
So, I mean, his work sounds really critical, not only in educating seniors on how to avoid these scams, but also just building their confidence, I would think, in using technology safely.
Yes, absolutely. It's about empowerment.
Yeah.
Making them feel like they can be informed and discerning digital citizens.
And it's a good reminder for all of us, I think, that as technology becomes, it's even more integrated into our lives.
Yes.
Digital literacy is essential across generations.
Absolutely. And that's something we can all be working on.
Yeah.
To make sure that everybody is protected.
We can't just assume everyone's on the same page.
Right, exactly. There are different levels of comfort and knowledge.
So that's a fascinating look, I think, at how technology is impacting the lives of senior citizens in India.
It really is.
And it does raise these important questions about how we ensure everyone benefits from the advancements, but also how we mitigate the risks.
Yeah, I think that's a key challenge going forward.
But it also highlights this interconnectedness of the generations, right?
Absolutely.
And how important it is to have that dialogue.
Yes.
And that support between generations.
Yeah, we have so much to learn from each other, the older generation, the younger generation, and technology can be a really great tool for bridging that gap.
Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about another area where he put the spotlight, which is innovative educational initiatives.
Okay.
And he specifically calls out this children's library in Chennai called Prakrith Arivagam, founded by this tech professional, Shriram Gopalan.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting about this library is it focuses on experiential learning. So, they have a diverse collection of books, of course, but they also offer storytelling sessions, art workshops, and even robotics lessons.
Wow, that's amazing. That sounds like a really fun and engaging space for kids.
I'm curious, what makes this approach so effective? Is it just about being more engaging, or is there a deeper educational philosophy at play here?
I think it's recognizing that, learning isn't just about passively absorbing information. It's about active engagement, experimenting, creating.
Yeah.
And this library provides that environment where kids can do that.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Now, this idea of creating these engaging learning spaces isn't just limited to Prakrith Arivagam. He goes on to highlight a few other impactful libraries across India.
Oh, cool.
Like the Food for Thought Foundation libraries in Hyderabad.
Oh, wow.
And the Prayag Library in Gopalganj, Bihar.
Interesting.
And each of these has its own kind of unique approach and what they offer, but they all share this commitment to fostering a love of learning and intellectual curiosity in children.
It's so important.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me think about how, we often think of libraries as these like quiet, dusky places.
Yeah.
But they can be so much more, right? They can be these vibrant community hubs that nurture these young minds and inspire them to keep learning throughout their lives.
Yeah, and that seems to be exactly what he's advocating for. He's advocating for a shift from this kind of rote memorization that, is so common in traditional education toward something that is much more holistic and embraces creativity and critical thinking.
Hands-on.
And hands-on exploration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It is. And this focus on nurturing young minds, it doesn't stop there. It actually kind of takes us on a journey across continents.
Oh, really?
He talks about his recent visit to Guyana and his reflections on the global Indian diaspora.
Okay, that's quite a jump from libraries to Guyana. So what's the connection there?
Well, I think he's drawing a parallel between nurturing young minds in India and the contributions of the Indian diaspora globally.
Oh, I see.
So he specifically highlights the story of Indians in Guyana, and he kind of traces their 180-year journey from indentured laborers to now leaders in various fields.
So it's about recognizing the achievements of those who kind of ventured out into the world and made a mark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like saying, look what we can accomplish both at home and abroad.
He doesn't just leave it at that. He actually issues a call to action.
Oh, does he?
He encourages listeners to research and share stories of Indian immigrants around the world, highlighting their contributions and how they've preserved their heritage.
That's great.
And he even suggests using the hashtag Indian Diaspora Stories on social media.
That's smart.
Yeah, what a clever way to engage the audience, you know?
Yeah.
Turn it into something more interactive.
Get people involved.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what kind of stories will be unearthed and shared.
I'm curious too, yeah. It could be really powerful, I think, to have that kind of, shared storytelling.
It's about recognizing those connections,
right,
even across these geographical boundaries.
Yeah.
So this call to kind of explore our heritage and connect with our past, it transitions very smoothly, I think, into the next segment.
Okay.
Where he talks about a project documenting the history of Indian families in Oman.
Okay.
It's almost like he's saying, let's not just look outward, let's look inward at our own history as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
What do you think about this project?
I think it's fascinating because it's not just about grand historical narratives. It's really about capturing the everyday lives of ordinary people who made the journey from India to Oman,
Okay.
some as far back as the 1830s.
Wow.
And they're collecting everything: diaries, letters, old photographs, even account books.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, creating this rich tapestry of personal histories.
It's like stepping back in time.
It is. It is.
What's really cool is they're also including an oral history project.
Oh, wow.
Where they're recording firsthand accounts from, the older generation.
That's wonderful.
So it adds this very personal touch and brings the history to life.
Yes. And I think it's so important to capture those oral histories before they're lost.
Right.
Because they provide, a more nuanced understanding of the past.
Right. It's not just dates and facts.
Exactly.
It's about the human experience.
It is. It's about their stories, their memories, their emotions.
Makes me think about how much history is passed down through oral traditions in India.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like this living, breathing archive.
It is. Yeah, it connects the generations.
Yeah. And he seems to be acknowledging that by connecting this project in Oman to a similar initiative that's happening in India, focused on collecting first-hand accounts from those who experienced the partition of the country.
Oh, wow. That's really powerful.
Given that the number of partition witnesses is dwindling,
yes,
this project feels especially urgent,
It does. It's about ensuring that those experiences, both personal and collective, aren't forgotten.
It's about acknowledging a painful chapter.
Yeah.
And giving voice to those who lived through it.
Absolutely. These stories are crucial for understanding the complexities of the past and the lasting impact of that event.
So he's weaving together these seemingly disparate threads, right?
Yeah.
The Indian diaspora in Oman, the partition oral histories, and then he expands the scope even further.
Does he?
Yeah, he mentions a directory of village histories that's being compiled in India.
Oh, wow.
So it's like he's talking about preserving heritage at these multiple levels,
Multifaceted approach.
Individual, community, national.
Yeah, it's about valuing all the small pieces that make up the larger mosaic.
And it's not just about looking back,
Oh, okay.
He also highlights efforts to preserve India's maritime heritage.
Okay.
He mentions the development of this huge museum in Lothal.
Oh, wow.
Which, I think is pretty fascinating because it shines a light on this often overlooked aspect of Indian history.
Right.
It's this reminder that India has this rich seafaring tradition dating back centuries.
Absolutely.
Then he mentions efforts to translate ancient Indian texts, like the Upanishads, into other languages, like Slovak.
Oh.
It's like he's saying, we value our heritage and we want to share it with the world.
It's about cultural exchange and spreading that knowledge and those ideas.
Okay, get ready for a complete change of pace.
Yeah.
From history and culture, we're suddenly zooming into the world of environmentalism.
Okay, how does that happen?
It can feel jarring at first, I know, but I think there's a deliberate strategy behind it. He's highlighting the interconnectedness of these seemingly disparate areas.
Okay.
Preserving heritage, nurturing young minds, protecting the environment.
They all play a role.
It's all part of building this stronger, more vibrant India.
Absolutely, I see the connection there.
When it comes to environmentalism, he is very clearly passionate about the Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, One Tree in Mother's Name campaign.
Okay.
They have planted 100 crore trees in just 5 months.
Wow. That's incredible.
Which is a staggering number.
It is.
And it speaks to the power of collective action.
Yeah.
It's not just a government initiative. It's individuals, communities,
Everybody working together.
all coming together to make a difference.
That's wonderful.
And, he leads by example. He shares how he participated in this campaign during his visit to Guyana, even planted a tree with the Guyanese president.
Oh, wow.
And then he just rattles off all these inspiring stories from across India.
Right.
Like Indore, for example, set a record.
Yeah.
They planted over 12 lakh trees in 24 hours, which is amazing.
Wow.
They basically transformed this barren hillside into a green zone.
Wow, that's amazing.
But what's really great is the diversity of the approaches. You have these large-scale initiatives like the one in Indore,
Right.
and then you have these smaller community-led efforts.
Okay.
Like in Jaisalmer, for example, a group of women planted 25,000 trees in an hour.
Wow.
And it's like everyone is finding their own way to contribute.
Yeah.
Whether it's organized events or individual acts of planting.
That's great.
And then he takes it to this very personal level, encouraging listeners to plant a tree in their mother's name.
Oh, I love that.
That's such a beautiful gesture. It connects environmentalism with this familial love and respect.
It's a beautiful way to frame it.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, let's make this personal. Let's make this about something we all care about.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's key to getting people involved.
Yes.
When you connect environmentalism to these personal values and relationships, it becomes less about this abstract concept of climate change and more about something tangible.
Yeah, it's more meaningful.
Yeah, relatable. Speaking of relatable, get ready for a dose of nostalgia.
Okay.
He shifts his focus then to something that might seem kind of unexpected.
Oh.
The decline of sparrows in urban areas.
Okay.
He talks about how many children today have only ever seen these birds in pictures or videos.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think is a loss that probably resonates with anyone who remembers a time when sparrow chirps.
Yeah.
It's just a common soundtrack
Oh, absolutely.
to daily life.
Yeah, it makes you realize that even these, seemingly insignificant creatures play such a vital role in the ecosystem. And their disappearance can have this ripple effect that we might not even fully comprehend.
Yeah, we may not even realize it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't just dwell on the problem, right?
Okay.
He shares these really uplifting stories about initiatives that are working to bring back the sparrows.
Oh, that's great.
Like the Kudugal Trust in Chennai,
Okay.
which is engaging school children in sparrow conservation.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
Now, I'm curious, how are they going about doing this? What's their approach?
Well, they're taking a very hands-on approach. So they're teaching children how to build sparrow nests.
Oh, that's cool.
And just spreading awareness about the importance of these birds.
That's great.
So it's about, empowering the next generation to become stewards of nature and fostering that sense of responsibility from a young age.
That's a fantastic idea. It's not just about learning about sparrows in a classroom.
Right.
It's about taking action.
Exactly. Getting your hands dirty, literally.
And it's working.
Is it?
Thanks to their efforts, the sparrow population is actually increasing in those areas.
It's wonderful to hear.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And then he mentions another initiative called Early Bird in Mysuru, which is using a special library and a nature education kit to teach children about birds.
That's great.
So it's interesting, both these initiatives focus on that hands-on experiential learning.
Yeah.
It's about getting out there and interacting with nature.
Yeah, making that connection.
Experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's something I think we desperately need in a world that's facing, all these environmental challenges.
We do. I think it's so important to foster that love and appreciation for nature.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will translate into, lifelong conservation efforts.
Yeah. Now, from the world of birds and trees,
Okay.
we return to the realm of government bureaucracy.
Oh, boy.
Which might seem like a bit of a letdown.
A little bit, yeah.
But he manages to even make this topic kind of interesting by focusing on a rather unexpected issue.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Piles of old files in government offices.
Okay, so how does he spin that?
Well, think about it. Those files represent inefficiency, right?
Yeah.
Bureaucracy, lack of accountability.
Right.
And he uses this image to introduce a special Swachhata Abhiyan, a cleanliness drive
Okay.
that's aimed at clearing out those bureaucratic cobwebs.
I see. So it's about more than just physical cleanliness.
Exactly. It's about creating a more efficient and responsive government.
Yeah, getting rid of the clutter.
Yeah.
Both literally and figuratively.
And he also connects this effort to the idea of waste to wealth.
Okay.
So he highlights stories of, young people who are turning what's typically considered waste into valuable resources.
Okay, give me an example.
Like Akshari and Prakri from Mumbai.
Okay.
They're creating trendy fashion items out of fabric scraps.
Oh, wow. Upcycling.
Exactly.
That's great.
It's a great example of, creativity, entrepreneurship
Yeah.
being harnessed to address both environmental and economic challenges.
Yes, absolutely. A win-win.
And then there's the Kanpur Ploggers group.
Okay, what's that?
So they go for these daily morning walks along the banks of the Ganges River, and they pick up plastic, garbage, and all that.
Oh, wow.
But they've taken it a step further.
Okay.
They've actually started turning that waste into tree guards,
Oh, that's fantastic.
which protect the very environment they're cleaning up.
Yeah, I love that.
A fantastic example, I think, of that community-driven environmental action.
It is, and it shows that, you can make a difference at the
Yeah.
local level.
And it's not just about organized groups either.
Okay.
He shares this story about Isha from Assam,
Okay.
who left behind the corporate world to focus on cleaning up the Sangti Valley in Arunachal Pradesh, which had become polluted with plastic waste from tourists.
Wow. So she just took it upon herself.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see these individuals,
It is.
taking this initiative.
hmm
It's a reminder that we all have that power to make a difference, regardless of our background.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that environmentalism isn't just the responsibility of, governments or big organizations.
Right.
It's about all of us doing our part, however small it may seem.
It's really remarkable how he manages to connect all these seemingly disparate threads, youth engagement, the Indian diaspora, historical preservation, environmentalism. It's all woven together.
It really is. It's like a tapestry.
Yeah.
And it speaks to his ability to communicate a vision, a sense of shared purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just individual issues. It's like he's painting a picture of what a stronger, more vibrant India could look like.
Yeah. And it's not just painting a picture, it's about inspiring action.
Nice,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, throughout the episode, he's urging listeners to get involved, whether it's researching their family history, planting a tree, or even just becoming more aware of the challenges and opportunities facing India.
Yeah, it's a call to action.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. Makes you wonder, what other insights and calls to action might be hidden in other episodes of Mann Ki Baat.
Right. I mean, we just scratched the surface here
Yeah.
with this one episode, but who knows what else is out there.
It's like a window into the Prime Minister's thinking,
It is, yeah. It's a unique perspective.
Yeah. So what does all this mean for you, our listener? What resonated with you the most from this episode? Was it the emphasis on youth engagement?
Yeah.
The inspiring stories of environmental action? The call to preserve history and culture?
I mean, there's so much there.
There is. Whatever stood out to you, I encourage you to, reflect on how those themes connect to your own life, your community.
Yeah.
How can you apply what you've learned from this deep dive to make a positive impact?
That's the goal, right?
It is.
To take these insights and actually do something with them.
Yeah, to turn knowledge into action.
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives. It's not just about, passively absorbing information. It's about sparking ideas, igniting passion.
Empowering you.
Empowering you, yeah.
To make a difference.
So go out there, explore more episodes of Mann Ki Baat, and let us know what you discover, what fascinating things you find.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, because you never know. Sometimes those most profound insights can be found in the simplest of places.
Absolutely. Like a radio address.
Like a radio program.
Yeah. Connecting a leader with his people.